We know how to produce food. We know how to manipulate land. We know how to do that. We're very good at it. We just haven't been doing it in the right ways, in the right places, at the right frequencies. We're trying to create an experimental plot where all the techniques that exist for agroforestry, for restoration, go into a pot, and we use them together. Finding those frequencies that work for this specific area is sort of the experiment here. And then once we have a really good toolkit that is usable anywhere in the world, so if you live in the Kalahari or if you live in New Zealand, creating a way for you to look at the landscape and say, what is missing? What did it do? And how can I do that? See the animals that either exist there now but are not there, or have existed there in the past and played a vital role. So instead of 7 billion humans acting like humans, if a couple million of us stopped acting like humans and start acting like the animals that are extinct or not in our area, the ecosystem has a way of regenerating with that. So all we have to do is train people to look at the landscape in a different way, seeing how they could reproduce what's not there on a mechanical level, and then the ecosystem will take care of itself. And that's been one of my challenges. I'm a designer. My whole thing is stopping myself from designing, just making the disturbance on the scale that an animal would, and then backing off and saying, okay, what is the ecosystem going to do with this specific disturbance? And that has been my challenge, but that is going to be the challenge for every human as we move along. So moving into the idea of what the future looks like, you can have two futures. One is an annual future and one is a perennial future. There's a lot of money and energy going into what the future of annual vegetables look like. These techno fixes, which are these like huge skyscrapers that grow crops in controlled environments and hydroponics and all the rest. Do I think that solves anything? I don't. I think it exacerbates the issue that we already have of we're trying to dominate an ecosystem, and it just gets worse from there. Where our perennial future, starting to move into the idea of creating ecosystems with perennials, trees, and moving into a space of agriculture that is long-term. We do that in some things. Our apples and peaches and pears and everything that you can grow on a tree, we're used to that type of thing. Chestnuts, for example, we're treated as grain. Right now, if we just grew grass on an acre, that acre is just 1 acre. But if we grew grass on that acre and then put trees on top that still allows the grass to grow, we have another layer of food production on that same thing. Now, if you put vines that grow up that also was a food producer, now you have 3 layers of food producing. So instead of having 1 acre of food, you have 3 acres of food.
We've basically been 2D farming.
Absolutely.
Right,
absolutely. It could be 3D farming. And then we're not getting the ecosystem services that wild systems produce. Wild systems produce all the air that we breathe, all the water that we produce, and all the biomass and carbon sequestration, which is one of the big ones for today. We've already broken the climate in a way that no matter what we do now, it's going to change. It's going to get drier or wetter or hotter. So we have to have this very adaptable food system where perennials are just more adaptable because of their root systems. They can deal with drought better, where annuals are just by their very nature not very adaptable to change. And we just been living in this 10,000 year beautiful window of very stable ecosystems. And that is not the norm for our planet. The norm for our planet is very raucous all over the place through ice ages or long droughts. We have had this spot where annual agriculture could even exist. That's not going to work for very long, and it's not really working that well. Only through subsidies do we see these large-scale farms. We have to do this strategy of thinking about climate change, thinking about carbon sequestration, thinking about food production, what the future could look like. We need to combine those into a regenerative, perennial systems that produce all the ecosystem services that wild systems do, but also produce all the food that we need. That's going to take an effort on everyone's part. The consumer to ask for these products, and for the growers to grow them before there's a market for them. And that's the hard part, because we can't keep designing systems for the system that we have that we know is broken. We have to design systems that are experimental for the world that we are trying to build. Everyone gets scared of that gap. that's sort of what we're trying to do here. Is we're trying to create a whole new style of agriculture where we're restoring an ecosystem at the same time producing food.